As a scorching heat wave batters Europe and the United States, U.S. President Joe Biden unveiled new executive steps to address climate change in a visit to Massachusetts on Wednesday.
It is literally, not figuratively, a clear and present danger. The health of our citizens and our communities is literally at stake.
But Biden stopped short of declaring a federal emergency, a move many Democrats have urged. Instead, Biden announced a modest package of executive actions, but promised more aggressive efforts. Some 100 million Americans from New York City to Las Vegas will be under heat warnings this week.
Climate change is literally an existential threat to our nation and to the world.
The announcements included new funding for cooling centers and a push for new offshore wind projects in the oil-rich Gulf of Mexico.
Today, we began the process to develop wind power in the Gulf of Mexico as well for the first time. A real opportunity to power millions of additional homes from wind.
The Federal Emergency Management Agency will also provide $2.3 billion in funding to help states build cooling centers and to tackle other aspects of climate change. New funding could expand flood control, shore up utilities, retrofit buildings, and help low-income families pay for heating and cooling costs. But those actions fall short of demands by Democratic lawmakers and environmental activists who want Biden to formally declare a climate emergency, which would enable the use of the Defense Production Act to ramp up production of a wide range of renewable energy products and systems. Biden is under increasing pressure after conservative Democratic Senator Joe Manchin said last week he was not ready to support key climate provisions in Congress, a critical loss in the evenly divided Senate. Biden said in the coming days he'll be announcing more executive actions to combat climate change.
Kenya's Deputy President William Ruto says he'll publish government contracts with China and deport Chinese nationals working in the country illegally. That's if he wins the top job in a presidential election on August 9th. The policies are designed to appeal to citizens pummeled by mounting debt and a skyrocketing cost of living.
We will put the brakes on more borrowing. It may not come to zero, but we will begin the journey to slow down on borrowing. Because they say when you find yourself in a hole, stop digging.
Kenya, which has a 2022 to 2023 budget of just under $28 billion, has a deficit of 6.2% of GDP and owes China about $8 billion. That debt has funded an infrastructure building spree under President Uhuru Kenyatta. The contracts are not public, and some Kenyan organizations have lodged court cases to try to force full disclosure of the deals. Ruto says his is an economic platform.
But that economic platform includes public resources, which means we have to tackle corruption head on, right? And in fact, in this election, we are probably the only team that has a plan on how to fight corruption.
His main rival, Raila Odinga, has also vowed to tackle corruption and the cost of living. Ruto has painted the election as a clash between hustlers and dynasties. The hustlers are Kenya's poorest, who he has vowed to lift up. Dynasties is a jab at Odinga. This is his fifth crack at the presidency. It's also a dig at Ruto's current boss, son of Kenya's former president Jomo Kenyatta. Uhuru Kenyatta has backed Odinga in a bid to sideline Ruto, who the president describes as unfit for office. Kenyatta's embrace of his former rival over his deputy is not unusual for Kenyan politics, which is often driven more by personality, ethnic alliances and backroom deals than ideology.
A law protecting same-sex marriage rights in the U.S. could be inching closer to becoming a reality. That's according to top Senate Democrats and Republicans, who said on Wednesday that they may have the votes to pass a bill that would codify same-sex marriage into law. The measure, intended to head off any Supreme Court effort to roll back gay marriage rights, passed the House on Tuesday with the support of all Democrats and 47 Republicans.
The bill is passed.
In the Senate, at least 10 Republicans would have to vote in favor of the bill for it to pass in the evenly divided chamber. Republican Senator John Thune said he wouldn't be surprised if the 10 GOP votes were there, adding that same-sex marriage is something he thinks, quote, people in the country have come to accept. Republican Senators Susan Collins and Rob Portman are co-sponsors of the Senate bill, and Republican Senator Tom Tillis told CNN on Wednesday that he would probably vote yes, saying the bill sends, quote, an important message. The legislation comes in the wake of the Supreme Court last month striking down 1973's landmark Roe v. Wade ruling protecting the right to abortion. In his concurring opinion, Justice Clarence Thomas wrote that the court should also reconsider past rulings that guaranteed access to contraception and the right to gay marriage because they relied on the same legal arguments as Roe. Over the weekend, conservative Republican Senator Ted Cruz appeared to welcome that thinking, saying it was, quote, clearly wrong for the Supreme Court to establish a federal right to same-sex marriage, which it did in Obergefell versus Hodges in 2015. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham also said he would not support a bill codifying same-sex marriage. Other Republicans said they would wait to read the text of the bill before deciding how they would vote.
U.S. stocks rose on Wednesday with the tech-heavy Nasdaq posting a strong gain as investors appeared to be encouraged by the latest corporate earnings. The Dow rose fractionally while the S&P 500 rose by more than 0.5%, and the Nasdaq jumped more than 1.5%. Shares of Netflix surged after reporting results in which the company predicted it would return to customer growth during the third quarter. Greg Hahn, president and chief investment officer at Winthrop Capital Management, said it was Netflix that buoyed the market.
I think investors are navigating different information as it comes. The big issue near term, we got some great news from Netflix, great catalyst for the market today. The big issue, I think, is the Federal Reserve and what their decision next week is going to be and what that means for short-term interest rates and long-term interest rates, and the impact that that'll have on inflation. Inflation is the key driver right now for investors.
High-growth stocks other than Netflix extended gains following the forecast from the streaming service provider, including shares of Apple, Amazon, and Facebook owner Meta Platforms. Health insurer Elevance Health plunged after the company said medical costs failed to decrease in line with rival United Health Group. Finally, Baker Hughes tumbled as the oilfield service provider reported a bigger second quarter loss than expected, while its adjusted profit also missed estimates. Sales of previously owned homes in the U.S. fell for a fifth straight month, hitting the lowest level in 2 years as home prices hit an all-time high in June, and as fast-rising interest rates make buying a home too expensive for a growing share of Americans. Existing home sales, which account for nearly 90% of all home sales in the U.S., dropped 5.4% in June, according to the National Association of Realtors. Sales have now fallen each month since January. The West, Midwest, and South all saw declines, but sales were unchanged in the Northeast. The median price of an existing home climbed to an all-time high of $416,000 in June, a more than 13% jump from a year earlier. Sales remained concentrated in the upper end of the market amid a scarcity of entry-level homes. The housing market, which is very sensitive to interest rates, has softened notably this year as the Federal Reserve lifts rates aggressively to blunt record-high inflation. While it's unclear how much higher mortgage rates will climb, it's almost certain they will remain high for some time, with the Fed set to raise interest rates again at its policy meeting next week.